Greetings. Welcome to CIBER Focus, your source for international business information. I'm your host, Ryan Craven, and our guest today is Aaron Perry. Aaron is a senior lecturer at Indiana University with the Kelley School of Business. He's in the Operations and Decision Technologies Department, and his areas of expertise include sports information systems, data mining, predictive modeling, along with health and clinical informatics. Aaron was part of a team that worked with IU Health Network to develop a data-driven model to improve hospital efficiency in real time, and is going to share with us a little bit more about that project. All right, Aaron. Well, again, thanks for joining us. I kind of understand, you were recently part of a team that worked on a model to help IU Health kind of manage the resources during the COVID-19 situation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that project and, kind of why is it important and why is it needed?
Well, it's sort of interesting how that model came about. We're actually building a new hospital in Bloomington right now. IU Health is building a new hospital on the bypass. And I have been working with a number of administrators at the hospital, trying to figure out if this new model is going to actually work or not. So a lot of people, and I don't know how much of this is public knowledge yet, but we're going to go for a smaller hospital that's more efficient than the current hospital. So that freaks a lot of people out when we say that we're going to actually reduce the number of inpatient beds, but it's actually going to be good for everybody. So we've been working tremendously hard trying to find inefficiencies in the current patient flow system and trying to identify those and what can we do to fix those inefficiencies. So I was brought in by a fellow named Michael Melby that I've done a lot of work for, wonderful human being. And he was asking me specifically to help him with ER or ED admissions. So we need to lower the number of ED admissions down about 40 or 20% from year to year to make this new hospital work. And I didn't really know at first how that was going to be possible, but then he keyed me into this command center that they have in Toronto that, they run this like sort of, a NASA command center, which piqued my interest. So I took a trip to Toronto last year and I went up and visited those folks for a couple of days. I came back to Bloomington I think it was March or April, and I presented my findings, and it absolutely it went off. Like the people loved it. The people loved the concept. They loved the idea that we could use a command center to run a hospital and the way that they're using it. It's a smaller hospital, Bloomington being a smaller hospital than the one in Toronto, but the way that they use data and technology to make decisions just seemed like perfect fit for Bloomington, and we started to move forward with that. Unfortunately, Michael passed away over the summer from a rare disease, and I sort of lost touch with him for a few months after that happened, and only about November of last year did I get contacted by IU Health again in Indianapolis saying, hey, we saw your presentation in Bloomington. We loved it. We thought that the challenges that you spoke of really speak to the things that we ourselves are dealing with all the time. So would you be willing to come to Indianapolis and work on two of our largest hospitals, IU Methodist and University? And so I blew them off for a while, honestly, because I didn't really have the time. And then finally, about December, I said, hey, I've got some bandwidth here. I would love to come and meet with you and see what we can do together. So we met with Troy Tinsley and a couple other folks in their department, and we realized immediately the need, and this is all before COVID-19. I mean, COVID-19 was happening, but we didn't really know about it yet. We were just trying to look at how we could help them with nurse retention, scheduling, making sure that people weren't getting burned out from being placed in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there's so many different things our model had accounted for with workload and with resources to move things around, that we were trying to implement that version of it. And then all of a sudden, boom, COVID-19 hits, and it just changed everything completely for us. And it changed it in a way that it didn't interfere with what we were doing, but it added another level of complexity. Suddenly, we had a really unique opportunity to be the modeling group to decide all of IU Health's network and how they would plan for the entire network. And we're talking about out of 6.7 million people, I believe they are over 1/5, almost 1/4 of the population gets served by IU Health. So about 25% of people in the state, their healthcare would be a product of decisions that our model makes. And that was really exciting to us. And we jumped on that right away because we were ready for the challenge, and we actually felt that we had the best model to meet the challenge.
Yeah, thank you. So it sounds like this, the model, like I said, the fact that it was kind of already in process, in place before the situation, and really already looking at inefficiencies and how to streamline healthcare is amazing. And it also sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's the fact of a smaller hospital, but really identifying what it takes to just really get the patients in and out in the right space, kind of that throughput, able to serve more people in less space by being as efficient as possible.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about patient throughput. And I would stop and say, I would be disingenuous if I didn't stop and say that, a couple of people along the way really clued me into this concept. I had no clinical background. So a person like Derek Fields at IU in Bloomington, he's actually now the director of pharmacy. I mean, he's done amazing things. Michael Melby, I mentioned him. He was so important to the build of this project, and so many people know him. But these are the people that gave me the knowledge I had to just come forward and say, I'm going to be transparent here. I don't know a lot about healthcare. And they said, you have the skills that we need. You have the techniques. You have the methodology that we need to make our processes better. So I think those are the people that really drove me the most. They were my constant, just every day, every morning, just bugging me first thing in the morning with an email or scheduling a meeting at noon so I could squeeze it in between the class. It was really cool to see somebody at a local level push a practitioner and push somebody that normally would just be focused on schoolwork. They're going to take you to a different direction. They're going to actually make your teaching more enhanced. They're going to make your pocketbook more lucrative because they can pay you to do some of this stuff. But they're opening up opportunities so that you challenge them and they challenge you. I think that's an amazing concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, it feels like that's kind of in the back of my mind always been the purpose of higher education to a certain extent. It's here's this expertise and knowledge, and not just essentially knowledge for knowledge's sake, but implementation. And that's kind of always been my biggest, the thing I'm the most of a fan of is how do you take that expertise and get it into the hands and use for those that really need it. One thing that really struck me from that first piece was, so you said this operation was, you found the initial concept in Toronto from like the command center. So, and I know that they have a completely different health system structure than the U.S. How did that strike you as, being able to see that work there and hopefully be able to bring that to here?
Well, I thought a lot of what they did, which is funny because we spent about 3 or 4 hours walking through things, and me in my American dialect, asking questions the best that I could. I got what I thought was an amazing response from the Canadians. They really wanted to share with us what they had succeeded at, and they wanted more of these. This, by the way, when I chose Toronto, I looked around the country, and that was the closest one to us. So in Indiana, we could go to, I think it was Tampa, or a couple. I mean, there's only maybe 5 right now in the entire country running this type of dashboard. Toronto being number 1, and that was the closest, and it ended up being the best. I mean, you can't argue with the closest and the best. They were absolutely the leaders here. So I think that being able to go up to Toronto, being able to work closely with those people, take as many notes as I wanted, just observe as much as I saw fit. And I'm a person that when I tell people that I steal their ideas, I never really steal their ideas, but I'm a big believer in borrowing. If it's going to make me a better person, I want to borrow as much information as I can. And so I took that information back to Bloomington. And that's really where I gave the presentation that impressed the people from Indianapolis, because I didn't even know they were there, but they were in the room, and they saw my presentation, and then they said, come work with us. And I thought, yeah, well, I'd love to, but life gets in the way. I don't have time. And then about, like I said, 3 or 4 months ago, I just reached out and said, hey, let's do it. Let's actually, help you guys out with nursing and scheduling and all these things that I know you have need for. And that's when the COVID-19 thing hit. So we've had this dual project going at once, but it's been really, really fun.
Fantastic. Is this model something that's, you see this as, not necessarily the cutting edge future of healthcare, but do you see this kind of concept, reaching out and taking over more and more hospitals moving to this kind of a process?
I do. What's funny is so I mentioned Derek Fields earlier, and I mentioned Michael Melby. My first exposure into healthcare as a really green kid out of, we started building software, and we actually did it. I set up the company myself, probably as a moron, but I set up myself to be the president of the company, and I wanted other clinicians to be a part of this. And so I brought in the best people I knew, because I saw there were so many gaps in healthcare. So we started our own company at IU Health, and it worked for about 6 months. And then I got notified I needed to go speak to the president of the company. I thought I was getting fired. He brought me in and said, what can I do to help you? This is amazing. What you have come up with is just absolutely amazing. So the clinicians that I work with, Derek and Michael, 2 of the finest clinicians in the world, brilliant minds. They built what I would say is, to simplify it, it is a patient stratification system. So where you can actually use technology to stratify how sick a patient was, how much need a patient was in at any point in time during the day. And that was revolutionary. It was in real time. So as a lab result would come back, that might change everything for a patient, right? A negative lab result or anything like that. We built this system that was absolutely revolutionary. And that system itself should be used by every hospital in the country and every hospital globally, every hospital. We understand that, and we actually have a fully working version of the software. We sold it to another company, but our belief in it, our passion for it, we do believe that our software is what people need to improve healthcare. So I worked very close with the chief of staff at Bloomington. And he sent me some wonderful, nice letters where he said, "You've saved me 20% of my day load and workload. I can't ever thank you enough." And I said back to him, I said, "Peter, what happens after you go see the first patient?" He said, "Well, I just walk down the hall and I go see the next patient." And I said, "Peter, what if I could tell you who you should go see next? I'm not telling you who to see next, but who should be seen next, based on labs that come back all the time. We have, it's a 24/7 operation. We have things returned on our bodies constantly, which impact clinical decisions." And he just looked at me and said, "You're kidding me, right?" I said, "No, I can build a system that tells you, as you intervene on this patient over here, the next patient you should go see is not the one closest to you, but the one with the most symptoms, where you can actually intervene and prevent an adverse drug event." And that was what our system was built all about. Like I brag about it a lot, but that is really what, the core of what we do.
Well, and just from my own experience a little bit with kind of being the healthcare side of it, and just being a patient, or being there for my spouse who was a patient. It's really interesting to me to think about the kind of even the personal care side of it. It sounds like based on the information, you could track, hey, this patient's pain seems to peak at this time each day because this is where, the drug medications are really kind of getting amped, or this is the time they've been asking for it. So this would be a good time to stop by and just check on them and kind of, have that personal touch.
It almost like naturally lends itself to those times.
Great. Well, I'm excited to see kind of how this all gets implemented, especially as that new hospital gets completed, and best of luck with that. It sounds like this is a process that could be implemented regardless of necessarily the healthcare system and style, right? The information is all the same.
Right.
The hospital process generally is all the same.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, a hospital kind of needs to operate like a business and as efficiently as possible.
Right. You're exactly right.
Well, Aaron, thanks for your time. Is there any other kind of topics or anything else you would kind of like to share with us today?
I don't think so. You've been awesome host, and really appreciate the opportunity to bring this to the public, because most people have no idea. And I think that the more of us connected and understand what's happening is going to be a really great thing for all of us. So.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, again, thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's it for this edition of CIBER Focus. If you have any thoughts or suggestions for future topics, please let us know at cyber@indiana.edu.